We're already on to the third Showdown Island game of the season, Tyson. Got another fun one, though. We got the Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins, but we have a little bit of injury news on the Dolphins side that makes building for this one not too awful, which is pretty awesome. We got some pretty awesome dudes we want to play, so I'm kind of excited to start building for this one, man.
It feels like, Josh Allen dominates the Dolphins. It feels like him at captain is just a clear play, even in tournaments, just because of that salary savings we're going to get. I feel like we got to embrace both Tyreek Hill and Josh Allen at captain and figure out how to get different from there. And, sprinkle in maybe 10% here of some of these pass catchers like a Waddle. All right, that's the end of the show. We'll see you guys later. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, week one for me was not great, but I think I pretty much broke even, which is a huge win just because of the amount of volume that I was playing, is not money-wise, but as far as lineup-wise. Every 10-cent 20 max, every 25-cent, every mini max, like basically every single slate that I can get my hands on. I absolutely whiffed the main slate, won some decent money back on the late slate. Lost my ass on one showdown, won it back on the next showdown. I just played a lot of volume. Thankfully SaberSim's super quick. You can get a lot of these lineups built. What was your strategy last week? We'll just talk briefly about this since we got through week one. And how did it turn out for you? Did you, it seemed like to me with SaberSim, like their projections and their sims are usually dead on, but they were super high on some guys that absolutely flopped. Yoshevitz, which he was high owned, but who was it? Rashad White, he just didn't get there. So there was a couple guys that were just, I'm learning that I'm going to need to start limiting some of these guys that SaberSim really loves. But in the past, it's like I've limited them and they've gone off and it's kind of bit me. So how'd you do week one?
I did fine, man. Nothing crazy. I think I broke even too. We lived to fight another day. Did you see the winning Millie lineup? It was a single bullet. It was pretty crazy. I mean, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Like sometimes seeing those lineups, I just see it, and I'm like, I would need SaberSim to get me there. I don't know if I'm ending up on Alec Pierce sometimes on
I
some
don't,
of those states.
I don't even
Did you
think
see
that
that
was,
catch though?
oh,
Yeah,
Alec
did you see
Pierce.
that
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson throw to Alec
Oh
Pierce?
yeah.
That was crazy, man. That was
Yeah,
just
it was
absolutely
insane.
insane.
It was a good week. There was some good games, a little bit sloppy, and I think some of that sloppiness is going to come into play here. I don't know how. This should be a shootout. It's a 48.5 point total. The Bills defense didn't look great against the Cardinals. They stepped up when they had to. Their pass rush, harassed Kyler Murray in the second half. The Dolphins defense didn't look great either. They stepped up when they needed to. That game, they probably should have lost that game. The ETN fumble out of the back of the end zone, up 17-7. That would have been 24-7. Instead, the next play, the 80-yard Tyreek Hill touchdown. So that really changed things. They won with a field goal at the buzzer. So I really do think that there's some potential for some more sloppiness here on a short week. These guys played 4 days ago. They're not going to get much reps. They're going to do a lot of walkthroughs, get on a plane, and just go play football. So for me, it feels like, with Josh Allen at quarterback, who has the most turnovers in the league over the past few years, you could still play the hell out of him. But, Dolphins defense lineup here and there is probably a smart idea, considering they might be 10% owned or less, both of these defenses. Buffalo Bills, they're a shell of themselves when it comes to, their defense specifically. They lost a lot of guys. Their run defense against James Conner last week did not look very good. It's one game. Who knows? Maybe they're going to get better. But the Bills defense feels like they're going to give up a lot of points. But I still might sprinkle in a little bit of defenses here and there, just in case this is a sloppy, slow game and you're going to get a ton of leverage. So, 2.5 point favorites here, the Miami Dolphins at home. When it comes to heat, it's going to be warm and humid at night, even though it's night. And there's, it's Florida, so there's always chance of a little thunderstorm, a little rain here and there. What are we thinking for this matchup, man? To me, it just feels like I don't know where to go. It feels like I'm not going to bet against Josh Allen going against the Dolphins. And Tua just can't win these big games. He just hasn't been able to.
So the first thing I want to say is I talked a lot about it last year. I really thought that I'm on a victory lap, so I'm a little bit of a take here. I really thought they were going to move on from Stephon Diggs. They were going to kind of split up that relationship in Buffalo because it just wasn't working out. Right, they're at the end of what they were going to get out of that, and I think we saw it last week in Arizona or in the Arizona game. I think they're really just we know that Josh Allen's the alpha, but it was Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Now it's just Josh Allen, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily know who that alpha is. And I agree with you. I think although you have the turnover risks, like he had 2 rushing touchdowns last week, and there's a real world that he just continues to get rushing touchdowns and just continues to be the primary, just dominant ball guy. I know that's a like basketball term. He's the quarterback, of course. He's the primary ball handler, but like he's just going to continue to dominate the ball. I think throughout the season.
15 rushing
And then
touchdowns last year, dude. 15.
say that again.
15 rushing touchdowns last year, man. That's just
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, man. Like, and so with the Dolphins too, I think Mostert being out really kind of opens up some stuff for us. We saw how much volume that Achane's going to get in the passing game. He's lining up at wide receiver, so I just really think that we're gonna look, man. I'm gonna get weird with some of the running backs, dude. I might have three. I might if Achane plays, I might have Achane, Wright, and Jeff Wilson in a lineup. I don't know. It's gonna be fun. I think you can do shit like that with the Dolphins. And I don't know which Tua are we going to get? Are we going to get concussion Tua? I mean, he had what 22 dropping points last week in a really weird game.
Yeah.
Kind of. I wasn't expecting that game to end the way it did, but
Yeah.
at least they were able to pull it out.
Yeah, they utilize their running backs so much, man. Like if the run game's not working, they're still getting involved in these little quick little screen passes. I mean, dude, like Achane, I felt like touched the ball so much, and even with Achane and Mostert dominating the snaps for the most part, we still got a drive where Jeff Wilson came in and looked really good. So now that Mostert's out, it feels like Mostert's out for sure. Achane's game time decision questionable. It feels like no matter what, Jeff Wilson is a guy we want to really get involved, and even we can even go deeper than that. We could even hit the backup. What is it, Jalen? Why am I blanking on his name?
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright. I almost said Jalen Warren. We might be able to go him. We know he's most likely going to be active. So the biggest question is, Achane or no Achane, if he's healthy, I think you got to play him. And I think you got to play him at captain. I think people might be scared. In fact, people were snake bitten by Christian McCaffrey last minute not playing. And we talked about it. Like he was kind of like, I'm fine. I'm good to go. Almost as if the coaches wanted to potentially keep him out. But I didn't think it was going to be inactive. So maybe people are snake bitten and they're like, you know what? I'm not playing Achane if he's questionable, or if, people who are hand building hours beforehand. His ownership might be lower than it should be, I'm assuming. All right, so let's get, like I said, weather, hot. There's no sun beating down on these guys on the visiting side like there usually is at a 1 p.m. game, but it's still going to be very, very humid, man. It's game 2, man. These guys didn't play in the preseason, most of the starters. They don't get a ton of, off-season conditioning as far as a team together football action. This could be sloppy. We could see some guys subbing out. This is going to affect this team for sure. I saw this tweet today, and I thought this was kind of interesting. I mean, the last 30 starts, Tua, 8,200 pass yards, Allen, 75, et cetera, down the line, pass rating lower. This doesn't mean anything. Only in the fact that it seems like Tua, he puts up the numbers, but as far as fantasy wise, I think going into the season, like ESPN had him ranked like 19th quarterback, for fantasy wise. It's just one of these things where, to me, Tua, you feel like, okay, he could put up 300 yards, no problem. And if he puts up 22 Draftkings points like he did last week, or 23, he's going to be in the optimal most likely. But there's situations where this team just runs the ball and it's working, and he's not needed. Maybe a Tyreek touchdown here and a couple of rushing touchdowns there, and he ends up with 11 or 12 DraftKings points and they win the game. We'll get into Tua here in a little bit, but he always confuses me as to how much I'm going to get of him. So I think it's heavily game script based. If you're fading Tua, throw in both the running backs maybe. That's just my thought. Or you have a game script where they're getting their ass kicked and they're not putting up much points. That's not likely to happen in this one. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think we'll talk more when we get to quarterbacks.
All right. So last thing I want to talk about here, I use this as kind of a barometer to, like a pecking order as far as what Vegas thinks by the touchdown odds. We see Jeff Wilson here has the fourth highest odds at plus 105. You see Jalen Wright, who hasn't even been active, he's a rookie, plus 165. First of all, I would never bet these. That's insane. But just looking at kind of in order here, sorted by odds, kind of what Vegas is expecting Jeff Wilson Jr. to do seems promising. And I don't see Achane. Oh yeah, we do see, and that's with Achane. So anything jump out to you here? You got Keon Coleman way down here. You got Miami Dolphins defense still on the screen. Anything jump out?
Yeah, so the biggest thing to jump out is to reiterate what you said. Never bet these. These are some god awful lines, man. But yeah, I think the running backs. I just think there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen. But even though we have that uncertainty, Achane is just so explosive. If he plays 25% of the plays, he could end up with 100 yards and a touchdown. So that's really the biggest thing I think that sticks out. But Shakir having even odds with Keon Coleman is interesting. It feels like Vegas doesn't know who the number one is there in Buffalo either.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into wide receivers here in a minute. All right, let's go to our injuries because we got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
By the way, if you're not following the Buffalo Bills PR Twitter account, they do the best job in the NFL. Their inactives are they obviously come out with their inactives, but they actually have an active full list of all 53 players that are active, which is awesome. So, because some of these guys, sometimes you're like, wait, what, is he? As we get farther into the year, what's his status? Is he on the practice squad? Was he called up? All this stuff. They list it, which is super helpful for us, especially when Showdown comes out. So Teron Johnson is out. He left during the game against the Cardinals last week. That's a big deal. I mean, this defense is not necessarily stacked. They lost their two best safeties. One guy switched teams and went across to the Dolphins. So Teron Johnson being out is not good. You got a couple defensive ends that are out or doubtful. Josh Allen did have that left hand injury when he scored that touchdown last week. He's a tough guy, man. That's not gonna affect me at all. He's got no status. They taped him up. It was his left hand. I'm not worried about that. Anything jump out to you here?
No, but well, okay. So with the defense having some pretty decent injuries, I think it's worth pointing out just because of how bad they were in Arizona. Yeah, I understand that they ended up not in Arizona, but at the Arizona game. I understand they ended up winning that game, but they weren't necessarily stopping anybody. So this probably just again points to a shootout, but. I don't know why. I just thought of this. Josh Allen's going to end up being like the next Matt Stafford, right? Just that tough as nails quarterback that you all kind of just root for, right? I remember just falling in love with Matt Stafford when we broke his collarbone or whatever and threw that touchdown. Yeah. I probably am misremembering that, but we talked about that before. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Josh Allen. Like he's just hard carrying his teams, doing what he can, and yeah, man, I don't know. Anyways, but yes, I think the defense is kind of in for a rough day. This isn't the Cardinals' offense is much improved, but it's not nearly as good as Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Josh Allen, we talked about it. Coming in, just you and I talking about it, but he doesn't have a lot of guys surrounding him. He's got James Cook, great. He just doesn't have a ton of very massively talented dudes. Potentially guys like Keon Coleman, guys like that. But as of right now, it doesn't look like that on paper. He's just going to have to carry this team. I think he's an MVP candidate for sure. All right, so this is where we're really going to talk a lot here. Achane, DNP, limited practice, questionable with an ankle injury. Mostert out officially. We've got Malik Washington out. Elijah Campbell, a DB, is questionable. All right, so what do we do with Achane here? We got to have a backup plan if he's announced out at inactives. Like ideally, we'd get some rumors coming out like that. Maybe we get a Schefter tweet at like 2 p.m. or something that he's probably going to be inactive. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that if he's active, I'm going to play him. And maybe we'll see a little bit lower ownership on him. I'm going to be all about Achane. It does make me a little nervous, but I'm going to have plenty of Jeff Wilson Jr. as well. So, I thank God Mostert, Raheem, if you're watching, sorry, I don't want you to be injured. I don't want you to miss this game, but thank God he was announced out. That makes things a little bit simpler. If both of these guys were game time decisions, it would have been a shit show, to be honest. So what's going on here, man? What are you thinking?
I'm gonna stop overthinking Devon Achane. I'm one of those guys who's kind of been on the fence, thinking I'm trying to be the smartest person in the room, But at the end of the day, every time he's on the football field, he puts up like 35 fantasy points. So if he's active, I'm just gonna keep playing him until he's just inactive again, gets hurt, and can't play anymore. And that said, if he doesn't play for whatever reason, I don't. I just don't know what you do with that volume. Like it either goes directly to Waddle and Tyreek Hill, whom I'm already going to have a bunch of, or you get Wilson and Jalen Wright involved. And I'm considering playing both those guys with Achane anyways. You know what I mean? So it's not, all it means is I'm going to get a bunch more of these guys in this offense because I really think this is going to be a shootout.
Yeah, if Achane's out, I think you start plugging in running backs left and right. two
Yeah.
double running back lineups is fine. Like whoever's on the field at that time.
I'll play Mike McDaniel's cousin at that point. Like I don't care. Like if you're active on the squad, you might get a touch.
All right, let's break it down. All right, we're getting into this breakdown here, position by position. We're going through it. Let's start with quarterback. Josh Allen, 11K, seems low. Like we're saying, I don't know when or if these quarterbacks are going to be priced up. They seem like they've been priced down this whole season. Maybe that's on purpose. I don't know. But look, he's 11K. Tua's 9,400. I think clearly Josh Allen's a better play, obviously. But and I don't think there's a situation where I'm going to have a single lineup without Josh Allen, whether that be in the flex or at captain. If he gets injured, close the laptop, I'm going to bed. But if he plays a full game, he's probably most likely going to end up in the optimal. That's just how these showdown slates go. Don't overthink it. 11K, you'll find the value if you put him at captain. With Tua, he's being projected around 60% in the flex, which seems a little high. I know that this Buffalo defense is susceptible, but they put some pressure on Kyler Murray. They put some pressure on Kyler Murray last week, and they looked pretty decent in the pass rush. Now, I don't know if that's on the Cardinals, but their offensive line, as far as the Cardinals goes, seems to be pretty good. So we could see, we could see some pressure on Tua, and how will he react to that? He's $9,400. I think you got to get with the field potentially. I mean, you could get bold and say, screw it, Tua, fading him, get 10, 15%, maybe throw him in your single entry lineup. I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to let, the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to cap him per se. I'm just going to kind of see where it goes at 9,400. What are we doing here, man? Like, I know we've talked a little bit about this, but like DFS wise, how are we handling this? I don't think I'm going to play him in the captain spot though.
Tua? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I guess that's a stupid question. So I'm just going to start with Josh Allen, knock it out of the way. Josh Allen, he will probably be my highest owned captain. I think you said something like that earlier as well. But yeah, he'll be my highest owned captain as well. 11K. We got to think about Lamar Jackson when, the last like 25 years where Baltimore hasn't had a wide receiver. There's just so much volume that's being funneled directly through that one person. That I don't know, man. 11K is just a misprice. So he probably should be closer to 12 and a half for this slate, especially without Stephon Diggs. So that's all I got to say. I'll have close to, if not 100%. But yeah, Tua, no captain for me. I don't even know how much you need to get to him. Like you can probably build just comfortably, get Achane, Tyreek Hill, and then I don't know, one of the backup running backs, and be very comfortable with your exposure to Miami offense. Especially if he's coming in 50, 60% owned. Yeah, he might end up with 15, 20 fantasy points, but at the same time, there's also like 4 other people on this team that are going to have 15, 20 fantasy points. So you need to have the right roster construction at that point. And I don't know if 2 is going to be a requirement.
Josh Allen versus Miami. 5 AFC Player of the Weeks after playing Miami. 41 touchdowns, only 13 turnovers, thrown for 2 or more touchdowns in all 13 games against Miami. I think they've won 7 out of 8 games or something. It just seems like to me, I don't know who's going to win this game. I'm leaning towards Buffalo, but it doesn't matter. I still think Josh Allen gets you there. Don't overthink it. All right, let's go to running backs. Let's just start with Miami. Let's get that out of the way. Achane, 9,600. If he plays, I'm jamming him in. If there's reports that come out that says he'll be active but limited, his ownership's going to crater, and I'm still going to get to a decent amount, but I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to hold back a little bit. Last thing I want tomorrow night as I sit down and watch this game is, Achane goes to the tent in the first quarter and he's out for the whole game, and I've got, 50% of him. But if there's no report saying he's limited, if there's no rumors like that, I'm going to play a lot of them, and I'm going to play. He'll be my third highest owned captain probably, behind Josh Allen and Tyreek. Now let's talk about Jeff Wilson here. He's 2,400. He did play a little bit last week and looked pretty good. Like, he's not washed. He's 28 years old. He's one of these guys, former 49er. We know what to expect when Jeff Wilson comes in and picks up a random start. He'll probably get you, 50 yards on the ground at minimum, maybe 3 receptions for 15, 20 yards, and he'll probably get a couple goal line opportunities. At 2,400, especially if Achane is inactive, lock Wilson. He's in every single lineup, and mix in Jalen Wright. Even if Devon Achane is active, you still get to a ton of Jeff Wilson. I think he's probably going to be 30, 40, 50% owned, depending on Achane. I don't think you overthink him either. Jalen Wright, though, at 2K, what are we thinking with him, man? Like, it's obvious that Jeff Wilson is probably going to get most of the run, but Jalen Wright's one of these dudes that can, based on what I'm seeing on him, he could take one to the house. He's one of these fast dudes at 2K. Alec Ingold gets some random, 4th and 1 runs, maybe a goal line, little handoff. All right, after saying all that, what do we think about some of these backups? I don't think we need to talk much about Achane, but what are we doing with these backups?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with Jeff Wilson. One of the things is, though, that he got a lot of run at the end there because of the Mostert injury. So if you think that there's a potential that that run wasn't necessarily intentional,
well, here's
then
the thing.
Maybe
that's what I thought.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, dude. That's what I thought. But I watched Jeff Wilson get a couple carries. I'm like, oh shit, this must be the point where Mostert got injured, because I went and rewatched it before the show, and Mostert came back in the game after that. So I think they just worked him in, or maybe they were tired. Maybe because it was hot, they were working all these guys in. So that's just worth noting, because I thought the same thing. I thought Jeff Wilson came in and got some run. Oh, that must have been when one of these guys got hurt, but that's not the truth.
Well, then, I mean, there you go. That kind of just clears that up. I was going to make a case if you could use that as a potential to say maybe Jalen Wright would have gotten some run in that situation too. But look, Jalen Wright, I'm looking at getting some exposure to in like the 150 max. If Devon Achane is out, then I'm going to be all over him. If he was priced a little bit lower, though, I think he probably needs to be closer to 1,200 for this slate with Achane and Wilson both active. But, again, I'm going to have exposure to both these guys. I think Wilson's the primary guy that you're looking at for salary savings, and Wright is a guy that you can probably sprinkle in 5 to 10%. Don't need to get too crazy with them, right? But, it really comes down to whether or not Achane plays. If he's out, I'm just going to close my eyes and just see how much with these of these two guys I end up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And no matter what happens, I'm going to have all 3 of these guys. I'm going to have, if Achane's active, Wilson and Wright still. If Achane's inactive, just a lot more of them. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Alec Ingold gets a vulture touchdown rush at like 3% owned and $400 when everybody
I
in
actually
the world,
wouldn't be surprised at all.
When everybody in the world is playing Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. All right, let's go to the other side here. James Cook, 9K. I don't know why SaberSim has Reggie Gilliam projected for 4 fantasy points at $200. That's going to change. I can promise you that. This is, a day before they're going to dial in the Sims a bit here, but that will change. Don't look at that and think that's anything. Ty Johnson, I think technically he's not questionable. I think he's off. He doesn't have a designation. He's 2,200. Ray Davis.
Football fans at home, don't forget Ray Davis.
3,600. There's a lot of running backs in this game that I think we're going to be getting to, and a ton of wide receivers to choose from as well. James Cook here at 9K feels like Miami can be rushed on. We saw ETN do pretty good minus that fumble. We saw Tank Bigsby come in and get a long run or two here. It feels like both teams can be successful on the ground, and a guy like James Cook, in my opinion, can just get a ton of volume. Who knows what they're going to do with some of these backups. They didn't really get a lot of run last week, but James Cook is going to be involved no matter what. He's really the only other skill player on this team that's like reliable, that they know how to use. When it comes to the pecking order as far as Buffalo guys goes, it's Josh Allen and then it's James Cook, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem with James Cook, though, is like he's priced at 9K, and that pecking order is like 1A, Josh Allen, 1B, Josh Allen, 2 through 5 is also Josh Allen. Then like 6 is James Cook, and then they get into the red zone, and it's back to Josh Allen for 7 through like 15. So that's the thing. Like James Cook has to get inside the end zone from outside of the 15, or he's just not getting a shot at a touchdown.
That's true.
So at 9K, like you just got to be careful with that. If he was 8,400, I'd be all over it. Like there'd be a guy you throw a captain, put Josh Allen in there, and kind of just build around, but. Like, I don't want to get crazy, but I just don't know how much James Cook I'm going to get. And that's mostly because, for me, it goes Josh Allen is the most valuable player on this slate, right? And then, A-Chan, or Tyreek Hill, A-Chan, maybe Waddle, and then you get to James Cook. So
yeah.
That's just kind of where I have him on my list at this point. I just don't know if he's going to be there. I'll have a bit of exposure to him, maybe a little bit of captain in case he does get one of those breakaways actually turns into a touchdown instead of a Josh Allen touchdown.
And you're so right with James Cook. It seemed like every time last year we do one of these showdown shows, we'd have to remind people, like, if they get inside the 5, they bring in Latavius Murray or Ty Johnson or whoever the hell it was. Why am I blanking? They had one running back that got injured. He's a kind of
it didn't matter. You just couldn't. It just had to be not James Cook.
Yeah,
literally anybody but James Cook was a viable option.
And even if James Cook is in the game, he's going to get vultured most likely by Josh Allen. So it's tough. You're right, man. He's got to get his passing. He's got to get his receiving yards. He's got to from in the middle of the field. He's got to get his points. And if he doesn't, then I don't know about that red zone stuff, man. I just don't. It's tough. All right, let's move on here. With all this running back value, like I don't know how much Ty Johnson I'm getting to, maybe a little bit. I don't know how much Ray Davis I'm getting to. Maybe that's the play. Maybe you go Ray Davis over, the other guys on the Dolphins. I don't think that's the play in my opinion, but we've seen crazy things happen with some of these, Millie Maker winners. Let's go to wide receivers. Let's stay on the Buffalo side. Keon Coleman, 5,800. He looked pretty good, man, in that Cardinals game. He didn't, look absolutely fantastic, but he looked pretty good. He's $5,800. Like, all these wide receivers are pretty cheap. Khalil Shakir, 6,200. We know what he can do. He can get involved in a lot of different ways. Curtis Samuel, 5,400. I believe he's dealing with a turf toe that he's kind of, coming back. He's wearing that number 1. When I heard that Curtis Samuel was going to get signed by Buffalo, I'm like, damn, that's going to be sick. I'm going to enjoy playing him. But he's 5,400. I don't know if he's full. He seems like he's always hurt. I've been trying to play this guy consistently. I've been always drafting him in best ball every year. He never really pays off. We just need him to pay off in one game. And at 5,400, though, I just don't know if I love him. Mac Hollins is a guy, 1,600. Scored a touchdown last week. Didn't get involved a ton. But you got two guys in the red zone like Keon Coleman and Mac Hollins that should be out there, and one little pass to the back of the end zone, these guys can absolutely come down with it. A big dude like Mac Hollins, $1,600, man. I'm interested in him, but he did score a touchdown last week, so maybe his ownership will be inflated a little bit. But I'm still going to get to him. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 1,800. He didn't really get involved at all, but he did have one deep pass target that it was a miscommunication between him and Josh Allen. He was open though. And that's what you're expecting. When you see MVS on the field, he's going deep. There's no question about it. How much is he going to be on the field? I don't know. He's one of these guys that, we know his past struggles, but all it takes is one catch at 1,800 and he's in the optimal. So what are we thinking here, man? It feels like Keon Coleman is the clear guy here. I'm curious to see if he has a big week this week again. He comes out as that kind of number one wide receiver on this team. Besides that, it gets a little muddy. Khalil Shakir has been with the team the longest. Feels like he can get involved, but I just don't know how much I trust him at 6,200, even though it's a pretty decent price for all these guys. What are you thinking?
So the first thing is I want to point out Keon Coleman, he looked great last week. A lot of these wide receivers did look okay. Not great, but they did look pretty decent. But I also think it's worth not reading too much into the Cardinals defense. Like, I'm not sure that they have, this isn't a real defense when it comes to the secondary. Their corners, I don't know, man. Like, I'm pretty sure the three that they wanted this season are on IR. Anyways, they're playing against G Leaguers at this point. But look, Keon Coleman, he's going to be fine. He's got Josh Allen. I'll throw him the ball. Anytime you have a quarterback like that throwing you the football, I think you're in play. The thing that I think we need to be careful of is just the general prices: 58, 6,200, 5,400. I mean, they need what, 60 yards, touchdown, maybe 5-6 catches to kind of pay that off. And honestly, if you're getting that kind of volume, I don't know. I think maybe you consider a couple lineups at captain, but outside of that, I just don't know how much I'm getting to any one of those three. I don't hate Matt Collins, 1,600, but I think I'll use him similar to my exposure to Jalen Wright, right? So that would be a good way to quantify how much I like Jalen Wright. I like him, but still 5 to 10%, right? It's over the field. He has touchdown upside. $1,600 gives you a little bit of flexibility, but I don't think we're not talking 15 to 25% with these guys when we say we like them.
Yeah. I mean, Keon Coleman feels like a 30, 35% exposure kind of guy, maybe 5% in the captain. I'm not going to be too over the field on any of these guys. But if I had to pick one, I think Keon Coleman's the guy, and that's not, I think that would be everybody's choice, to be honest. I will have maybe one or two lineups with MVS at captain, just in case if somebody blows it and MVS gets behind the safeties and scores a touchdown. Let's move on. Let's keep this show rolling here. Let's go to Miami. Tyreek Hill, 11.6K. Play him. If he makes it to the stadium safely, play him. Jalen Waddle, 8,600. There was an interesting play last week where Tyreek Hill did a little 10-yard in, and from the other side of the field, Jalen Waddle did a post across, and that safety on the Tyreek side bit on that Tyreek route and left the field wide open for Jalen Waddle. He almost scored a big touchdown on that one. So what are you shaking your head for?
That's crazy that they
okay.
What are you supposed to do? You're just leaving people open.
Yeah.
And these are the fastest people on the planet. These are not slow wide receivers, man.
Exactly. So anyways, my point in saying that is Tyreek, he's gonna everybody's gonna be watching Tyreek. And sometimes you just forget about Jalen Waddle, who's a number one on most, a lot of teams in the league. Braxton Berrios, 1,200. Nah. Grant Dubois. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who the hell that is. He's $200. Robbie Chosen, I'll never play him again. It's Tyreek and Waddle here, and maybe 2%, 5% Braxton Berrios. It's these two guys. It's the running backs. It's maybe a random tight end, but it seems very concentrated on 5 guys on this offense. Anything to add? I mean, this is pretty simple, man. If Jalen Waddle's coming in at 30% owned, I'm going to be over the field on him slightly. And I'll be over the field on him at captain because he might just get forgotten about.
Literally all I have to say about this is I will open up my player pool if Achane is out, and it still will probably end up being the running backs, but that will be the only time I'll be able to consider Berrios, DeBoss, or Roby. Robbie. God damn, how
Roe
did I
v.
mess up
Roe v.
his name? That
Wade.
was the easiest to say. Yeah, Jesus. So Braxton Berrios, he maybe, but again, only if Achane's out and you have that like 26% target share that gets spread amongst the team. But that's it. I don't care about those guys.
Yeah, agreed. Tight ends, Jonnu Smith. I can't quit you. I can't quit Jonnu Smith. I'm going to play probably way too much of Jonnu Smith. 2,800. He had a target that he dropped. He dropped a pass, a little screen pass in that game last week. He had like one reception. Like, he was not heavily involved by any means. Durham Smythe got a little bit of run. Julian Hill got a catch at $600. You know, you got to choose one guy. It's obviously Jonnu Smith because he's a guy that can. He's Anquan Bolden at playing tight end. He's just not very good. But you know, 2,800. All these guys. There's so much value that is. I'd play if there were no injuries. I'd be playing a little bit more of Jonnu Smith in this game. That's just wishful thinking. It's obvious where all the targets go. They go to the running backs. They go to the top two wide receivers. You got to get a little bit of Jonnu, right?
Yeah, man, you can go ahead and get a little bit of exposure, especially if you're doing the 150 max or the crazy contest. If you're doing single entry or like a 3 max, I don't know if you necessarily need to. But outside of that, I don't think you need anybody else in this tight end group in your player pool. And just the one thing with Jonnu, I mean, I think I'd just rather pay 800 less or whatever it was to get to Jeff Wilson. You know what I mean?
Jonnu captain is in my future. I'm telling you that right now. All right, let's go to the other side. So this is interesting. We didn't see a lot. I mean, I almost this whole entire show I've almost forgotten about Dalton Kincaid. I don't know why. He was forgettable last week. He didn't really get involved. I thought for sure he was going to be the number one target, and maybe he still will be, but he just didn't get involved. He's 7,200. I think his ownership will be kind of low. Dawson Knox had one long catch. He's 2,600. We know what to expect from him. He's probably going to get you one or two opportunities in the red zone. If he scores, you're probably feeling pretty good, but there's most likely he's not going to score. Maybe he's going to put up 5 fantasy points. Dalton Kincaid is a big question mark to me. Does he get more involved this week? Do they make it a point to get him more involved? I don't know, man. What do you think about Dalton Kincaid? I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I like Dalton Kincaid. I think the Cardinals did a pretty decent job guarding him last week. They were putting a lot of emphasis on keeping him from being Josh Allen's primary target. Whether it was warranted or not, that's what the focus was. And I think a lot of people are misreading that as the Bills suck and Dalton Kincaid sucks. But that's not necessarily true. And that said, too, like I don't necessarily like I'm interested in Knox still too, and I know we may think that he's being kind of phased out of the offense, but the reason Kincaid was brought in was because of his ability to play, in the slot, play wide out, play just line up at the wide receiver spot. So we still will see Dawson Knox on the field, and again, like that price tag, there's just because of the Mostert news, there's just better options, I think, in the Miami backfield.
Yeah.
But I do think that these are guys that you can really consider in GPPs. And honestly, Dalton Kincaid might be an interesting captain option in general to stack with Josh Allen. He may go a little bit under the radar again, just because of he let a lot of people down last year, and he didn't wow anybody last week. So I just do think that that's going to impact his overall ownership. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but anytime you have elite quarterbacks throwing the football, you just have to you can consider taking stabs on anybody who can actually catch a pass.
It feels like to me, just guessing here, it feels like week 5, week 6, we're doing a show with the Bills. It feels like we're going to be talking about Dalton Kincaid as like either like the number 2 guy, or number 3 guy behind James Cook on this offense. That's just what it feels like to me. But we'll see if he can step up. It's his for the taking. If he can step up, he can clearly be the alpha pass catcher on this team. All right, let's go to defenses and kickers. So that Monday night game, I mean, you just got to play kickers, man, because you just never know when a dude's going to absolutely crush. And I don't know which one of these dudes that'll be. But I'm going to probably get to 20% of each of these guys. Don't play them in the captain. That's not necessary. But kickers get 20% each. Spread yourself out. Go over the field if you think that's gonna, be a good play. Maybe these offenses stall out and they kick a lot of field goals. I think it's always in play. I think you just always have to play kickers, unfortunately. Bills defense 4K, Dolphins defense 3K. All right. I know this is probably going to be a shootout. 48.5 point total. Feels like it's going to be a lot of points. In Florida, hot. Might get a little rain here and there. Humidity is going to be hurting people. Josh Allen. I think you got to play the Dolphins defense a little bit here, man. I think you do. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but like, if you're playing Josh Allen at captain and you want to get weird, throw the Dolphins defense in the flex. Josh Allen could still score 4 touchdowns and get sacked twice, fumble once, and throw a pick 6. And Dolphins are absolutely in the optimal. And Josh Allen's still the highest scoring player on the slate. Am I crazy? I'm going to get to some Dolphins defense. I am. I don't know that I'm going to get to much Bills defense at all, but they're projected to be 10% owned. Maybe I'll get 7% or something. Who knows? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind having a little bit of the Dolphins. I probably won't end up with any of the Bills myself. And the reason being is just because I'll have a rule. I won't have both defenses in either lineup. So if I have like 10% of Dolphins and then 10% of the Bills, then that's a minimum of 20% of my lineups have defensive exposure. So I'll kind of cut back a little bit just from that perspective. Outside of that, man, you made a great call the other night with Christian McCaffrey being out, jamming in a little bit more Moses Moody. That was something that you called out in the Discord. So hop in there. Look, I mean, no, you're right, and I don't know if the Miami situation is similar with Mostert being out, but just the question marks that you have in Buffalo, I do think that we could see a little bit more volume from Tyler Bass. So, yeah, I mean, he's worth considering. I probably don't need both kickers in the lineup on a slate like this. I
mean, there's a chance that we're talking about this game and both of these teams are 0-1. I mean, it very easily could have happened last week. So, I know they look good. I know for the most part, the Bills look pretty good, but they were playing the Cardinals. We got to remember that. So who knows what kind of Bills team we're going to see here. I just don't think their defense is good. I think they lost too many people. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to probably tear them apart. The biggest question is, can Josh Allen keep up? All right, let's go to our captain option here. This is our favorite captain, I guess just general GPP captains here. Where is it at? There it is.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Elliot, you're going Achane. I'm going Josh Allen. No surprise. There's enough value on this slate that I think we could still get different roster construction wise. Play Allen at 25% or whatever he's going to be at the captain spot. I like your pick with Achane though, dude. If he's active and there's no reports coming out that he's going to be limited or anything like that throughout the day, I think you got to play him, man. He's going to get heavily involved like he usually is especially with no Mostert. Anything else to add? It feels like his ownership either way is going to be pretty low because of that Q tag.
Nothing to add other than obviously you can still play Tyreek Hill at captain. There is value, so you can do that. This is in addition to Tyreek Hill.
So let's talk about this real quick. So we got rid of our fade segment. I think the main reason why is because we're not always fading somebody. There are slates where we're like, I'm not playing that guy. And there's bold take slates where I'm fading, a 40% owned guy. For this slate, do we have anything like that? We can just kind of add that into this segment if we have any fades that we're willing to talk about.
So if I was going to have one that might be considered a mildly bold take, it probably would go back to James Cook. And it just has to do with that inability to close in the red zone. The problem is now that I've said that, he's going to rush for 120 yards, receive 30 and have 3 touchdowns. So, it is what it is. But I mean, that's probably where I'm at, man. I think I'm just trying to get pass catchers around Josh Allen and just not looking at their running game.
The only thing I'm really going to do and go out of my way to do is I'm not playing 2 at captain. Maybe he's probably going to pick up 10-12% ownership at captain. He's not going to be nearly the highest owned by far, but still, I think that's the one thing I might do on the slate to get different. I usually just play a lot of lineups, so unless I have a really, 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 sort of strong feeling about not playing somebody who I think is over-owned or is in a bad matchup that people aren't seeing for some reason. I'm just, I don't typically, at least this year, I'm not going to just uncheck guys just to be bold. So there will be occasions when I will, and you have to. But on this one, I just feel like there's so many damn options on both teams, question mark wise, that I'm going to spread myself out for this slate specifically. All right, let's get to our next segment here. This is our Kimes Coked Out Play of the Night. This is basically a guy that we shouldn't be playing, but damn it, we're going to end up playing him. Where are you? Where's the I don't know where the sound is, and I'm just going to hit it. There's a sound somewhere. There he is. There's our boy Kime. So who's your guy that you're not, that you shouldn't play a lot of, that you're going to play?
Oh, you actually, I was hoping you wouldn't say anything because I wanted it to be a surprise, but it's for sure Alec Ingold. I'm just going to cover my bases. If there's an active running back, I am going to have exposure to him on the Miami. I don't think we want to underestimate what these running backs mean to that offense.
To me, it's Jonnu Smith, man. I know I shouldn't be playing him, but, you see him take off and score a touchdown every once in a while, and I'm just hoping tonight's the night he does it. All right, let's move on to lineups here. We're going to hand build a handful of lineups. Go ahead and throw us hit the subscribe button for us. I think by the time you're seeing the show, we should have 2K subscribers. Help us get that higher. Let's set a goal to get 3,000 subscribers by the end of the season. That'd be pretty nice. And throw us a like too. We appreciate you guys watching the last video. I think we got 116 likes on that video. That was pretty good. Let's get 100 likes. I set my goal for 50 last week. Let's get to 100 on this one. If you're watching this right now, tap that like button. It's free. All right, let's talk about this. Let's do a single entry build. I think we got to do two different builds. I think we start with Josh Allen. I think, in my opinion, if you're doing cash or single entry, Josh Allen's probably the guy, considering he's touching the ball every single play, and he's got the rushing upside as well. 11K. Let's just throw him in the captain spot for this. Now, with a single entry, we don't need to get too different, but it depends on the size of the single entry. If you're doing cash, you don't have to get different at all. But there's a lot of single entries that are pretty big, that are pretty huge contest wise. But let's say you're doing the $50 or the $100. How are we handling that? Let's assume that Achane is in for this one. I think you automatically just plug in Tyreek Hill, and I think you plug in Achane here too. Right?
Yeah, man. I don't know how you don't.
And Jeff Wilson in this one.
Yes, Jeff Wilson.
So I don't think we go Tua here with this one. I mean, you could argue that that's a decent play for a single entry. I wouldn't argue against that. But for this one, we got 4,900 left for two spots. Do you want to punt?
Well, let's see what happens if we throw in Sunshine, Ronnie Bass, Tyler Bass.
All right. We're going to get another kicker if we wanted. I don't think I want to do that. If we have news... if we have news that Achane's out, it makes it a little bit easier. We just plug in both backup running backs, and then we go out and get a James Cook probably. I still think we should. Can we do it? No, I'm not doing that. That's going to make me play Alec Ingold, and I'm not doing that. It feels like here's going to be the problem. I think James Cook. It feels like these Buffalo players are going to come in a little lower owned just because of all this damn value. You got Tyreek Hill is going to be almost every lineup. You got Achane, you got Jeff Wilson. If Achane's out, you got another right. You got that running back. So there's just so many options on Miami value wise that you're going to want to jam in these Josh Allen lineups.
What about Keon Coleman? What if we put him in? What does that leave us with?
4,100.
I don't know if I love it for cash.
Yeah, 4,100.
Terrible.
Yeah. So probably not. That's where we're in a little bit of a tough spot here. So if Achane's active, I do want to get him in. I still like Jeff Wilson. Feels like, maybe most people, the first thing they would do is put in Josh Allen, a captain, Tyreek, and Tua. So by fading Tua, maybe we're getting slightly different, which is what we want to do. But we're in kind of a weird spot here. I mean, if we go below Keon Coleman, I guess you got both kickers. We've done that. It feels like this. If you're going to build this lineup, you're probably going to end up, duped. That's kind of what it seems like.
Are there any other punts we're comfortable with? I don't hate Dawson Knox, but I'd like to get a little cheaper.
I just don't want to play him in a single entry. If we're building GPP lineups, there's a million things we can do here. If I want to keep it a little bit safer and I don't need to get too crazy, this is probably maybe a double kicker situation. I don't like that, but there's not a whole lot of options. I feel like I want to pull somebody out. Let's assume that Achane is out. You want to do that?
Sure.
You want to put in Wright?
All right, and then just put in Jalen Wright. Yeah.
All right, so now we can. I feel like I want to get to Cook in this lineup. Josh Allen at captain, Cook in the flex, Tyreek Hill. I mean, look at this. You still got a million options here. Jalen Waddle, would have been nice. We needed an extra $100. DraftKings did that to us on purpose, I'm sure. You got Kincaid. You got pretty much anybody you want. You can just drop down to a kicker if you want. I mean, I don't hate Kincaid here. You got Tyreek Hill. Both running backs with Achane out, if that's the situation. James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. I don't think that's terrible. Let's keep with Josh Allen. Let's not build a Tyreek Hill captain. We'll when we do that, we'll build Tyreek Hill GPP build. But let's go Tyreek Hill in the flex. Let's go with the one with Tua here. So let's see how hard this is with Tua. So let's assume Achane is in. We probably can't play him here, right?
I don't think so.
So, let's just go down to Jeff Wilson. We got 5K apiece. Kick his ass, Seabass, Jason Sanders. We're back to kind of double kicker here. Can we... Let's see. Who's the lowest price guy that we're comfortable playing in a single entry? Jalen Wright?
This might be okay. So Matt Collins isn't the end of the world, but honestly, Quentin Morris at $800, like that 800 is enough that if he got a 0, I wouldn't cry. But he could easily catch something in the red zone.
So we're basically punting on a single entry, and you go, "Why the hell would you do that?" Well, we're getting that high floor, and if Quentin Morris gets you 3 fantasy points or 2 fantasy points, that's a bonus. You're expecting the 0, but you're jamming in a lot of high floor type guys here. Basically, if you have Josh Allen at captain and Tyreek in the flex, you probably got to make a decision between Tua and Achane. That's what it feels like, right?
Yep.
And if not, then you're just kind of kickering it up and punting, which is probably a fine option too. Just I don't know if I'm going to take that route. All right, so let's go Josh Allen captain for a GPP build. Now this is where it gets fun. So let's put Tyreek Hill in. Let's start with that. Maybe we'll potentially fade Tyreek in one of these builds and see how that goes. What's the game script here? Do we want to do like I don't know, Josh Allen? Like what is the game script here? Is this a massive passing day for Josh Allen, or is it a rushing day?
I think this is just a Josh Allen dominates on the ground type day. I think first Buffalo, maybe Josh Allen and Tyler Bass, I think is kind of all we need. And then maybe we try and run it up with as many Miami players as we can. But again, we're in the same situation. I want Achane and Jeff Wilson. And then, from there, see where we can plug it in.
But at least we can punt. So, hey, 5,100, maybe I want to just go down and grab. I mean, this would be crazy, but this is how you get different on a Josh Allen captain, Tyreek Hill in the flex day.
I want to be clear. I will absolutely have this lineup. Like, this is pretty much the lineup I had in mind when I was talking about having all 3 running backs. So,
I mean, only a psychopath would leave 3,100 on the table and have 3 running backs from the same team. So that I'm going to do it. This is the interesting kind of builds that you can do here. I mean, who knows? Who knows if Achane is out? then definitely comfortable playing Wright and Wilson together. And on occasion, I will do a couple of these builds just for fun, just to say I did it. All right, so you want to do a Tyreek Hill GPP build? And when I say GPP, we're building for the big contest with hundreds of thousands of entries. All right, so Josh Allen in the flex. All right, do we want to do a Tua build here?
I don't know, man. Let's maybe we do like a reverse onslaught with because if we are building this for the Millie Maker, everyone's going to try and stack Miami and leave Josh Allen kind of naked.
Yeah.
What if we do Tyreek Hill captain and maybe we do Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, and Keon Coleman, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Do you want to play Cook in this one as well, or do you want to get?
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do Cook and who do you want, Kincaid or Coleman?
Let's go Coleman to save the money. And then, so let's go Tyreek. Do you want to go Tyreek and Jeff Wilson or Jalen Wright? I mean, they're $400 apart. Probably plug either one in. You got a Jason Sanders. I would just go Bills. Little 2-4 action here. You could get it. You could do.
I don't hate that at all.
You could do a 3-3 if you played the other kicker. Oh wait, that's Bills defense. I don't hate that, but let's go. Oh, we can't afford. Okay, that's my bad. We can't afford Tyler Bass.
Well, the Bills' defense isn't terrible in this because Tyreek Hill, you're expecting to get all the points in this lineup, right? Jeff Wilson is just getting value at 2,400. Like this might be one of the few lineups that I actually have some exposure to Bill defense because we were talking about maybe having 3 to 5%, right? This would be something I'd be comfortable with.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. You could just go Jason Sanders here, decent build.
Right.
Not bad. Let's do one Tyreek Hill captain. Let's do Tyreek Hill captain. Maybe two. Let's do two. Let's do two. Let's put the top 3 players as far as price wise or ownership wise. Sorry, on the slate here. Let's just do that. Let's just go Hill, Tua, Josh Allen. We got 4,000 apiece. We're gonna get to at least Jeff Wilson or Wright in every lineup. In this one, we're going to have to fade Achane, and maybe Achane's out, and this works perfectly. I mean, do you want to just put Achane in here and just punt? I don't know. Is there a $200 guy that we care about?
I don't think so. I mean, unless we want to run Alec Ingold. I don't think so. He was still 400.
Let's pair Josh Allen with a pass catcher. I don't think we can. We can't really. I mean, we could do James Cook. And then really
throw in, what about Matt Collins? I mean, yeah, throw in James Cook. That's fine. But we haven't. We're doing GPP. We haven't punted with Mac yet.
Yeah, let's do it. Kincaid, Shakir, Coleman, Samuel. Basically, all these guys are in that range, or go down to kicker, leave some money on the table. So you could go Kincaid here. You could pop him out, go down to Shakir. Whatever, maybe just get a bunch of different variations on this and even change out Matt Collins. I just feel like with Tyreek Hill and Josh Allen, I'm absolutely willing to play him at captain on this one. Eat the ownership, it's fine. But you got to get weird roster constructions. That's just what it feels like to me. All right, you want to build with one more captain here? Achane?
Yeah, let's do one with Achane, yeah.
All right, Achane is active for this. That's what we're assuming here. We're rebuilding, obviously. Tyreek Hill, do we want to leave him out? What do you think?
You know what? Let's do a build without him. Let's do Josh Allen. Let's do Tua.
All right.
Yeah, let's do Waddle too.
Waddle, I like
Why
it.
not?
I like it. All right, so 3,300. Let's just go down to Jeff Wilson, right, or Wright, but let's just put Jeff Wilson in because I think he's probably going to get more run if Achane is active. So that puts us at Bills defense, puts us at Ray Davis, Dolphins defense, Jonnu Smith. 5-1 with Allen. Maybe we throw Davis in there. You know, there's a lot of different options here.
Dawson Knox, anybody you want.
Obviously, if you build with Hill, it's going to get a little bit squirrely. You're going to have to choose. Let's try that. Let's put Hill in and Tua with Achane at the captain, and we're basically screwed here. Freaking Alec Ingold and Mac Hollins or Jonnu Smith. I want to get a Buffalo, Dawson Knox. You're just kind of flipping coins here at this point, but interesting builds either way. Like the first 2 shows we did. Oops, I didn't switch over the. Oh yeah, no, I didn't. All right, sorry, my bad. The first 2 shows we did, it felt like hand building sucked. We weren't really finding anything we liked. I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna let SaberSim do the work for me. In this case, it feels like hand build is pretty fun. I'm probably gonna hand build a handful of lineups as well and mix those in with my sim builds. So, what'd you learn, man? What do you think?
Yeah, man. I think Mostert being out just kind of confirms that the slate isn't as difficult to build with. And we've said it on the last couple of shows, but while the pricing is still semi-soft, we just need to take advantage of it. Later in the season, we'll probably have less exposure to captain or quarterbacks than the captain. But right now, Josh Allen just isn't priced for just what he's doing on offense. So keep taking advantage of it.
What's your final score prediction for this one?
I got 38-31 Buffalo.
Yeah, I was thinking like 34-31 Buffalo. That makes me think that, oh great, this is going to be a Dolphin win. But as long as it's not a Dolphin blowout, I think I'll be pretty set up. I don't know how many onslaughts I have. I guess if you think about it, like because of all the value, Dolphin onslaughts are probably going to be very popular. But I don't know how much I'm going to get to that. I'm not going to like limit any of that, but I'm not going to go out of my way to boost 4 or 5 man stacks for Dolphins. I'm just going to kind of let it ride. Anything else to add, man? This is a Thursday night. I think this is on Amazon this week. So all you old people, you're gonna have to figure out how to watch this. Unfortunately, pay the Amazon Prime money. It's worth it. Anything else to add?
Join the Discord. We'll chop it up in there, and if we get any crazy news before the game, we'll give you some updates.
All right, guys. Throw us a like on the way out. We'll see you for Monday Night Football.